Donald Trump was caught on a hot mic today at Mar-a-Lago, admitting it all while meeting with his favorite fellow war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu. Whenever these two get together, it's the same routine, gushing over each other, spinning their war crimes for the press, and attacking the media. That's exactly what we saw here, as reporters were quickly ushered out of the room so these two could continue plotting in private and angling for future pardons. We're going to break down everything that happened, but before we do, please take a moment to leave a like on this video. And if you enjoy our channel and haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It really helps support our work. Now, before we get into this hot mic moment and this conversation between two war criminals pretending they care about peace, we need to talk about the reality on the ground. Both of these governments are being run by criminals who show a complete lack of concern for the lives they're destroying. That reality was on full display today, including Trump being questioned about what's happening off the coast of Venezuela, which we're going to look at right here.
Did the military do that?
Well, it doesn't matter, but there was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is no longer around.
Is that the only strike that the U.S. has done?
I don't want to comment on
President Trump yesterday there was an explosion overnight and the Russians.
So keep this in mind. This whole moment is supposed to be about peace. That's how Donald Trump wants to present himself, as a deal maker, someone who brings people together, and someone who thinks this will be his legacy. Not the crimes, not the humiliation of the country. In Trump's mind, history will remember him as a master negotiator, despite the fact that he hasn't actually delivered a single real deal. And it's important to keep repeating this. Trump's so-called ceasefire, which much of the mainstream media rushed to praise him for, has never actually held. You'll constantly see reports from CNN, the BBC, and others saying things like 10 more Israelis killed or 10 more Palestinians killed by the IDF as the ceasefire struggles to hold. That's not a ceasefire. There is no ceasefire. The genocide carried out by the Israeli government has continued nonstop. And that reality is exactly why Donald Trump went on to say what he did next, openly floating the idea of a pardon for his buddy.
The president of Israel needs to give the prime minister
a pardon. I think he will. How do you not? He's a wartime prime minister who's a hero. How do you not give a pardon? You know, I think it's a very hard thing not to do it. I spoke to the president, and it's on. I mean, he tells me it's on its way. Can't do better than that, right?
Of course, Donald Trump wants to see yet another war criminal pardoned. He's already done it for some of the worst drug traffickers in history. He did it for the January 6th insurrectionists. And let's be honest, he's probably already promised pardons to people like Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Pete Hegseth. If you break the law for Donald Trump, he rewards you with a pardon. That's how his system works. And of course, Benjamin Netanyahu fits perfectly into that pattern. Netanyahu is breaking the law. He is violating the laws of war as part of a genocidal project aimed at creating a so-called Greater Israel. The goal is ethnic cleansing in Gaza, clearing it out so it can be absorbed, expanded, and ultimately turned into profit, with luxury developments involving people like the Kushners and the Trumps. That is what this is really about. Yes, part of this is Trump's open hostility toward brown people, and we know he was bought off with massive donations, like the $250 million campaign money from Miriam Adelson. But more than anything, Trump supports Netanyahu because of the money and because Trump will always side with criminals. That's who he is. It doesn't matter what they've done, as long as they claim they're innocent and blame the press or the so-called establishment. Trump is on their side. He loves that narrative because it's the same lie he's been telling about himself his entire life. And that's what makes this meeting so ironic. It was supposedly about peace. Yet moments later, Trump was exposed by his own response to a real question about a peace deal he's completely failed to deliver in Ukraine. And before we get into that hot mic moment, it's important to understand just how dishonest this entire setup really is.
Jennifer News.
Yesterday, there was an explosion overnight, and the Russians say that Ukraine tried to hit the residence of President Putin. Do you have any information?
No, I don't know about it, actually, and I don't, I just heard about it, actually, but I don't know about it. No.
Did you speak with
That would be too bad.
I think those three clips perfectly expose how Donald Trump truly feels about peace before walking into a meeting where he's supposedly discussing it with Netanyahu. When it comes to strikes in Venezuela, he doesn't care that people are being killed. When it comes to the war crimes committed by the Netanyahu regime and carried out by the Israeli government, Trump's response is simple: pardon them all. He doesn't care about the UN. He doesn't care about the laws of war, and he doesn't care about human suffering. And when it comes to Ukraine, Trump shrugs and says, "Oh, they're still striking," as Putin continues his campaign of aggression. That's Donald Trump. That's the man who wants a Nobel Peace Prize. And that mindset is exactly what came through once again at his so-called peace summit, where instead of talking about ending violence, Trump complained about how he feels he's been ripped off. That's what was revealed in this hot mic moment, and it tells you everything you need to know about how seriously he takes peace.
But to both of them, I said, we're going to cut you off. No more trade. Then I put 200% tariffs on. The next day they called. We looked at 35 years of fighting, and they stopped. Do I get credit for it? No. They gave them. I did 8 of them. India. How about India and Pakistan? And then, so I did 8 of them, and then I'll tell you the rest of it. How are you doing? Okay. You gonna all be outside, the beautiful sun? Good. Enjoy your lunch. It's a very good group. We made a lot of progress already. We had about a 5-minute meeting, and we've already settled about 3 of the difficulties. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
This is what they're really talking about: Donald Trump's personal grievances. And Netanyahu is more than happy to play along. He flatters Trump, tells him he's been treated unfairly, that the system is rigged, and that the solution is more bombs, more violence, somehow pretending that's the path to a Nobel Peace Prize. Netanyahu feeds Trump exactly what he wants to hear. They came after you. They came after me. It's never about accountability, always some vague they. Trump loves that narrative because it's the same excuse he's used his entire life. What's ironic is that Trump once despised Netanyahu for acknowledging that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. But Netanyahu worked his way back into Trump's favor by fully embracing the same posture, playing the persecuted victim while committing open war crimes. Trump doesn't just tolerate criminals, he admires them. That's why the media had to be kicked out before this hot mic moment. They didn't want anyone hearing just how openly this grievance-fueled alliance really works.
They can't get enough. Well, they can't. But just think so.
They're kicking the media out and clearing the room. I do want to talk more about Netanyahu, Trump, and Miriam Adelson, especially after what we saw at that White House Hanukkah event and the open bribery on display. We'll get into that. But first, I need to say something that really frustrates me, and that regular viewers of this show already know. Trump and people like Caroline Leavitt constantly brag about media coverage. Look, we're on all the TVs. Of course they are. He's the president. That's literally the media's job. This weird obsession with attention is pure insecurity. Trump acts like the press can't get enough of him, when in reality they're just doing their work. It's especially embarrassing when you compare it to the vanity spectacles Trump throws for himself, like turning the Kennedy Center into a MAGA awards show for celebrities who pretend they're canceled, when the truth is they're just not relevant anymore. Trump always claims it's their politics that made them pariahs. But denying basic human rights will do that too. The darker reality is that this same press Trump mocks is the one he's actively trying to silence. Much of his censorship, especially against students and journalists speaking out for Palestinian rights, was justified using Netanyahu and criticism of Israel as an excuse. And let's be honest, this didn't start with Trump. Joe Biden was complicit. Kamala Harris was complicit. And that failure mattered. Democrats' refusal to clearly call the genocide a genocide played a huge role in Trump feeling empowered to crack down on free speech. He believed Democrats wouldn't fight back, and too often he was right. That silence created the conditions that led to student arrests, media intimidation, and the targeting of journalists and comedians later on. We need to be better than that. We need to be clear about where we stand and willing to say it out loud. That's what we're going to keep doing on this show, calling it out every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.